Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Iyori Folani. Okay, let's look at the latest, I think, election petition tribunal. That's of the governorship in Nasarawa State, where the tribunal has actually sacked the Nasarawa State governor, APC's Abdullahi Sule, by a 2-to-1 majority decision. The tribunal, faulted the declaration by INEC of the declaration of the sitting governor, and had said that INEC should withdraw its certificate of return and issue same to PDP's David Ombugadu. Well, let's look at that. Of course, APC has been APC in Nasarawa State has been quick to say that it'll appeal, and indeed, I think has given such notice, and that it stands by its governor. The governor, for his part, has also said that everybody should be calm. Let's just pursue this to a logical conclusion. Of course, APC and the governor going with the minority decision, which was delivered by Justice Ibrahim Mashi, saying that PDP's case lacked merit and failed to prove the case of the PDP. Okay, to help us look at it, in studio, we have Dr. Mubarak Adekilekun. He's a legal practitioner. A fine morning to you. Thank you very much for coming on our program.
Good morning to you, and thanks for having me here.
Indeed. Okay, so help us understand, especially against the backdrop of this was not a unanimous decision. Yeah, it wasn't an unanimous decision in that there were three justices. Two said the petitioner had won, and one delivered a minority decision. So it was dissenting in the sense that it said that the PDP's case lacked merit. Help us understand what the issues were that was considered by the lordships.
Thank you very much. The petitioners, in their petition, claimed a part of their prayers was that the PDP candidate, David Ombugadu, led with 4,130 votes. Especially, their claims were that some votes were not properly collated at the ward levels, while in some areas they alleged overvotings. Now, in the prayer, like I told you, they wanted the tribunal to declare them with 4,130 votes, whereas in their final written address, they came to the conclusion that the margin actually was 841 votes. So they abandoned their claims as one of the reliefs in the main petition, where they initially said they won with 4,130. At the end of the arguments and the filing of the written addresses, they included it that they were wrong. That's the implication. That now it is just for 8,841 votes. The tribunal extensively, like you said, it was a split decision. Two of their lordships say David Ombugadu won the election with 841 votes. Then the dissenting judgment of Honorable Justice Mashi stated that Governor Abdullahi Alhaji Sule won with a margin of almost 3,700 something votes. So that is the decision between the two. Two of them examined the claims of both the petitioners and the respondents and came to the conclusion, the majority says, it is Ombugadu that ought to be declared as the winner, and therefore it was declared. That the election conducted in Nasarawa State was not conducted in substantial compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Acts, whereas the dissenting judgments claimed otherwise, that the governor was properly elected and should remain the governor of Nasarawa State, and that the election was conducted in substantial compliance with the provisions. So the dissenting judgment dismissed the petition of the petitioners.
Mm-hmm. Now, thank you very much. Now, the lordships were actually, they necessarily had to deal with the same evidence before the court, before the tribunal. And I suppose this is why, you know, tribunals are peopled by, you know, an odd number of judges so that you can see if it's 5, then it's not possible to have an equal deuce kind of a situation. The governor and APC in Nasarawa State has said immediately that it's going to be appealing. From your point of view as a lawyer yourself, how come, well, it's not so much how come, what do you think was the reasoning? Because that Justice Ibrahim Mashi, you know, had said that his learned colleagues, you know, that was their opinion, and so we had that split decision. But he needed to put it on record that, as far as he was concerned, the case lacked merit. And that was, I thought that was particularly strong language. It lacked merit and failed to prove the case of the PDP. So, as I said, same evidence before the lordships, one seeing it so differently. What, if you were to hazard a guess, what do you think it was that they shall now be taking to appeal? Because they have signified that they will be appealing.
Thank you very much. After the respondents were served with the copies of the petition, naturally, in an election petition, because we see election petition is sui generis, meaning that it is a class on its own. We represented the governor, the second respondent, and we filed series of preliminary objections to the competence of the petition, and also answered the petitioners in respect of all their allegations. Thirdly, the second respondent also came out and said, since the petitioner were challenging that some of the votes were excluded, that the vote of the second and third respondent, that is the governor himself and the APC, were also excluded. Additionally, in compliance with paragraph 18 of the Electoral Act, which says that a respondent can also object to the vote of the petitioners, we also objected to the votes of the petitioners, especially naturally in the areas where they are on diverse grounds, including overvoting, non-accreditation, etc. Now, like you said, one of the reasons why we consider it very strong to go on appeal, let me take it from the preliminary objection that the second respondent, I'm speaking for the second respondent now, filed, okay, or the counsel on behalf of the governor filed. Like I said, the election petition is sui generis. We have said that the prayers in their petitions were ungrantable. I won't talk like a lawyer now. Let me come down to the level of a layman.
Oh, okay. Sorry, so that's not necessarily a legal term. That's not necessarily a legal term, ungrantable. You say you're not speaking as a lawyer and using that word.
No, I want to just make some kind of analysis. In an election petition, if you are challenging that the election conducted in Nasarawa State on the 18th of March 2023 was not in compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, naturally, you need to see that election which you claim was not in compliance must be nullified. The petitioners never asked the tribunal. There was no prayer as to the nullification of the election, because you have alleged that that election was not in compliance. And that was the decision of the tribunal. The majority decision was also that election was not in compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, the manual, and the guidelines. Now, if that is the case, should the petitioners not have asked for a prayer to nullify the election conducted on the 18th day of March? This is very fundamental. The part of the reliefs they brought was, withdraw the certificate of return of Governor Esuli and then declare Obodu, and he should be sworn in forthwith, which the tribunal granted. But because the election petition is so generous, having not asked for that prayers, and we say the courts and tribunals are not Father Christmas, we have stated that this is very, very cardinal. How can you issue a certificate of return to somebody and you never sought for the nullification of the election of the sitting governor? You know, it will create chaos. We have brought all these arguments, they were argued. Another point, which is also very important here, is an election petition. We have what we call grounds of the election. They are just like foundation. And the fact that you build on those grounds must not be incongruous with the grounds that you have. For example, the petitioner's only ground, the sole ground of the petitioners, was that Governor A. Sule did not win by majority of lawful votes cast at the election.